I watched the blood drain from Jackson Miller's face as he realized exactly who was signing the acquisition papers for what remained of his crumbling empire. "Remember when you said I was just a replaceable cog in your machine, Jackson?" I whispered, letting the words sink in as deeply as the knife he plunged into my back 7 years ago. My life at Harrison Financial Group was supposed to be the all-American success story. I started in their cramped downtown office back when Jackson was still driving his dad's hand-me-down Buick and Olivia was handling client calls between college classes. We were three ambitious 20-somethings with more dreams than dollars, working 80-hour weeks fueled by gas station coffee and desperate determination. "Ryan, you're the only marketing guy who actually understands what we're building here," Jackson told me during our first year, his arm draped around my shoulder as we celebrated landing our first major client. I still remember the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled genuine then before money hardened something inside him. "This isn't just a job, man. We're family now." And for years, that's exactly what it felt like. I gave Harrison Financial everything I had. My engagement fell apart because Melissa couldn't compete with spreadsheets and strategy sessions. "It's just temporary," I'd promise her as I miss another anniversary dinner. "Once we're established, things will calm down." But they never did, and eventually she stopped waiting. I didn't even mind. Harrison became my home. Christmas mornings at Jackson's lake house, teaching his kids to water ski while Olivia's husband manned the grill. Their mother treating me like her third child, always sending me home with Tupperware containers of leftovers because someone needs to make sure you eat something besides takeout. The night we hit our first million in revenue, Jackson opened a 30-year-old Macallan his father had been saving. To the Three Musketeers, he toasted, his arm around his sister, eyes glistening. "Dad would have been so proud to see what we've built." We drank until sunrise, plotting world domination on cocktail napkins. My marketing campaigns transformed Harrison from a boutique advisory firm into a financial powerhouse. My face was on industry magazines. Our client acquisition strategy became a Harvard Business School case study. And still, I never asked for equity because who needs paperwork when you're family? I remember the weekend before everything changed. Jackson invited me to his son's 10th birthday party. Little Ethan had always been shy around most adults, but he'd follow me around like a shadow. "Uncle Ryan, will you help me with my science project next weekend?" he asked, chocolate cake smeared across his cheek. I promised I would. A promise I couldn't keep. That Sunday night, I stayed late at the office, putting final touches on the next-gen wealth platform marketing materials. The custodian found me asleep at my desk at 3 a.m. "Mr. Peterson, you work too hard," he said with a concerned smile. "The company is lucky to have you." Looking back, there were warning signs I chose to ignore. The closed-door meetings I wasn't invited to. Jackson's sudden interest in my client profiling algorithm. The way conversations would abruptly change when I entered rooms. But when you love the people you work with, you rationalize these things away. The framed photo on my desk showed the three of us at our 5-year anniversary party, arms interlocked, champagne glasses raised high. To the next 5 years, Jackson had proclaimed that night. And the 5 after that, and after that. 2 years later, I'd be clearing that same photo into a cardboard box while security watched, my keycard deactivated before I even reached the elevator. 7 years of my life, my creativity, my sacrifice all erased with a single signature on termination papers that cited company restructuring as the official reason. I never saw the knife coming. Not from family. The morning everything changed started like any other Tuesday. I remember the weather crisp autumn air, leaves spiraling down onto the Harrison Financial parking lot where I'd left my car overnight again. My dashboard clock read 6:15 a.m. when I pulled into my reserved space, the same early arrival that had become my signature over 7 years. The security guard nodded as I badged in. "Morning, Mr. Peterson, beating the sun again, I see. Can't build an empire on 8 hours of sleep, right, Dan?" I laughed, the same exchange we'd had hundreds of times. The office was still dark except for the blue glow from my computer, which I rarely turned off. I settled in with my first coffee, reviewing the final presentation for Next Gen Wealth, my marketing masterpiece, the platform that would cement Harrison Financial as an industry titan. My fingerprints were on every aspect, from the client acquisition funnel to the behavioral economics that underpinned the user experience. I didn't notice Jackson standing in my doorway until he cleared his throat. "You're here early," I said, looking up with a smile that faded when I saw his expression flat, professional, distant. Not the face of my friend, but of a CEO I suddenly didn't recognize. "Conference room, 10 minutes, he said, then walked away without waiting for a response. Something cold settled in my stomach. I'd known Jackson long enough to read the subtle shifts in his demeanor. This wasn't about quarterly projections or market fluctuations. This was something else entirely. When I entered the conference room, the blinds were drawn. Jackson sat beside Olivia, whose eyes refused to meet mine. Between them sat a thin manila folder and a stranger in an expensive suit who introduced himself as legal counsel. "Ryan," Jackson began, his voice carefully modulated. "We decided to move in a different direction with our marketing leadership. The words hung in the air like smoke. I waited for more context for explanation for anything resembling the loyalty I'd shown this company for 7 years. I don't understand, I finally said, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. The board feels that with NextGen's launch approaching, we need someone with more specialized experience in fintech platforms. Jackson slid the manila folder across the polished table. Your severance is generous. 3 months' salary, continued health benefits through the quarter. I didn't touch the folder. This is my project, Jackson. NextGen is literally built on my market research, my client profiling algorithms, Your work as an employee of Harrison Financial, the lawyer interjected smoothly. All intellectual property belongs to the company, as clearly outlined in your employment agreement. I looked at Olivia, searching for the woman who'd stood beside me through late-night strategy sessions, who defended my budget requests to skeptical board members. Her face was a careful mask now, eyes focused on her folded hands. Is this about the Westridge account? I asked. Because I can explain why I recommended we. This isn't a negotiation, Ryan. Jackson's voice hardened. Security will help you collect your personal items. Your building access has been deactivated effective immediately. As if on cue, 2 security guards appeared at the door, men I bought Christmas gifts for, whose children's names I knew. 7 years, I said quietly. 7 years, and I don't even get the dignity of a real explanation. That's when Jackson checked his watch, and something inside me shattered. I was nothing more than an inconvenient appointment before his 9 a.m. coffee. A security escorted me to my office. The elevator doors opened, revealing a young man with slick back hair and a designer briefcase. He looked vaguely familiar. Mr. Brooks, one guard nodded. Your office will be ready in about 20 minutes. Tyler Brooks, the hotshot from Goldman Sachs who had been shadowing our meetings for the past month under the guise of consulting. He'd been asking questions about my client segmentation model, about the psychological triggers I'd identified in high net worth prospects. I'd answered every question, even stayed late to walk him through my methodology. He was my replacement. They'd already been training him, using me to train him while plotting my exit. Through the glass walls of my soon-to-be former office, I saw my computer screen still glowing with the next-gen presentation I'd been perfecting. 7 years of my creativity, my strategic vision, my sacrifice, all of it about to be claimed by someone else. As I packed my photos and awards into a cardboard box, my phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, Ethan's science project 4 p.m. Another promise I couldn't keep. I wondered if they'd already told Jackson's son that Uncle Ryan wouldn't be coming around anymore. Security stood impassively at my door while I emptied my desk. Through the glass, I could see employees arriving, confused whispers spreading as they witnessed my humiliation. Some quickly averted their eyes. Others stared openly, already calculating how my fall might affect their own standing. I never thought betrayal would feel so bureaucratic. I sat in my apartment for 3 days straight, blinds drawn, phone silenced, surrounded by empty takeout containers and the crushing weight of betrayal. I'd built my career on understanding human psychology, what motivates people to trust, to invest, to believe, yet I'd completely missed the signals of my own imminent destruction. On the 4th day, something shifted. Maybe it was the whiskey wearing off, or maybe it was the notification from LinkedIn that Jackson had posted about exciting new leadership at Harrison Financial. The fog of self-pity burned away under the white-hot flame of rage. I showered, shaved, and put on the same suit I'd worn to pitch NextGen to the board last quarter. Then I made a call to Marcus Reeves, a cybersecurity specialist I'd met at a fintech conference who owed me a favor after I connected him with his biggest client. I need you to look at something, I told him. Confidentially. 2 hours later, we were hunched over his laptop in a quiet corner of a hotel bar miles from my former office. Jesus, Ryan, Marcus whispered, his fingers flying across the keyboard. This platform architecture, it's like they built a bank vault with glass walls. Keep going, I urged. By midnight, Marcus had documented 17 critical vulnerabilities in NextGen's code flaws that would expose millions of clients' financial records, trading patterns, and personal information. The blood drained from my face as I realized what Jackson had done. They knew, I said, the revelation hitting me like a physical blow. They've been cutting corners on the back end while using my marketing to promise Fort Knox-level security. Marcus nodded grimly. Launch is still scheduled for next week. Tuesday, I confirmed, with a simultaneous press release to their investor pool and major financial publications. The next morning, I created 3 different encrypted email accounts. To each board member, I sent detailed documentation of the security flaws along with meeting minutes showing Jackson had been informed of these issues months ago but had ordered development to continue unaltered. To the SEC and financial regulators, I submitted formal whistleblower complaints with Marcus's technical analysis attached. And to Harrison's top 20 clients, companies I personally rooted and whose executives had trusted me, I sent a simple message before implementing NextGen Wealth next week. Please have your security team review this report. I couldn't live with myself if your client's data was compromised because of my silence. I hit send on the final email and felt something between terror and exhilaration course through me. There was no going back now. That night, my doorbell rang at 11:43 p.m. When I opened it, Olivia stood there, mascara streaked down her face. "You did this, didn't you?" she asked, pushing past me into the apartment. I didn't answer, just closed the door behind her. The board called an emergency meeting. The SEC has frozen all platform development. 3 major clients have already pulled out publicly. Her voice trembled. "Jackson is saying you fabricated the security reports out of spite. Is that what you believe?" I asked quietly. She collapsed onto my couch, hands shaking as she pulled a flash drive from her purse. "I've been compiling this for months," she said. "Jackson's been systematically claiming credit for your work for years, not just next-gen everything. He's been presenting your strategy documents to the board as his own since before your promotion." I sat beside her, suddenly remembering all the times Jackson had insisted on finalizing presentations before board meetings, the way certain slides would change subtly between my drafts and the final versions. "Why are you showing me this now?" I asked. "Because tomorrow morning, I'm taking this to the board," she said, her voice finding new resolve. "And I needed you to know I wasn't part of it." As she left, my phone rang. The caller ID read Meridian Trust, Harrison's largest competitor. The voice on the other end was familiar. The CEO had tried recruiting me 2 years earlier. "Ryan," he said without preamble. "I don't know what's happening at Harrison, but we'd like to meet tomorrow. We're prepared to offer you 3 times your former salary to rebuild our digital strategy, and unlike some people, we protect our own." I looked out my window at the city lights, thinking of Jackson facing his imploding company tomorrow morning. The next-gen launch he'd been boasting about to CNBC and Bloomberg was about to become the biggest disaster in financial services this year. "I'll be there at 9, I replied, feeling the first genuine smile in days spread across my face. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something better on the ashes of what they tried to take from you. I woke to an aggressive pounding on my apartment door at 5:47 a.m. Through the peephole, I saw 2 men in dark suits, not Jackson's typical enforcers from legal. "Ryan Caldwell?" The taller one flashed a badge as I opened the door. "FBI Cyber Division, we need to talk." My stomach dropped through the floor as they entered my apartment, taking in the wall of notes and laptop screens I'd left open from my late-night planning session. "Sir, we have questions about unauthorized access to Harrison Financial servers occurring approximately 72 hours ago," the second agent said, eyes scanning my living room. A significant intrusion was detected from an IP address associated with this location. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead as realization crashed over me. Marcus. That son of a bitch had used my home network when accessing Harrison's systems. I started, but the agent raised his hand. "We've been monitoring Harrison's network security for 6 months now," he continued, "as part of an ongoing investigation into corporate espionage and potential financial crimes." My mind raced back to the cybersecurity conference where I'd met Marcus. The convenient connection. His eagerness to help. The too easy discovery of flaws that would have required deep system access. "Marcus Reeves isn't who you think he is," the taller agent said, pulling out a tablet showing surveillance photos. Marcus shaking hands with Jackson. "He's been working as a confidential informant for our task force and for Jackson Miller." I collapsed onto my couch, memories flooding back. Marcus steering our conversation towards specific security weaknesses, asking pointed questions about my knowledge of next-gen's backend architecture, insisting I use his equipment to send those emails. "This was a setup," I whispered. "From the beginning." "Not exactly," the agent replied, sliding a folder across my coffee table. "Harrison Financial has been under federal investigation for months. The next-gen platform isn't just flawed, it's a sophisticated system designed to scrape client data for insider trading. When you became a liability, Jackson needed you gone, but also needed insurance against you causing problems." I flipped through the documents, internal memos, hidden accounts, transactions that made no sense unless you were skimming client information to front-run trades. "So Marcus baited me into committing crimes that would discredit anything I might say about Harrison," I said, the full scope of the trap becoming clear. "And you're here to arrest me." The agent's phone buzzed. He checked it, then gave his partner a meaningful look. "Actually, we're here to offer you a deal," he said. "Jackson doesn't know we've been watching him set you up. He thinks you're about to be arrested, which is why he's meeting with Marcus in exactly 40 minutes to hand over payment for services rendered." "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Wear a wire, meet with Olivia, who's been cooperating with us for weeks, get her to confirm what she knows about Jackson's operation." "And if I refuse?" The taller agent shrugged. "Then we're having a very different conversation about federal cybercrime charges." My phone rang. Meridian Trust, the competitor who'd offered me the job yesterday. "You might want to let that go to voicemail," the second agent said. "The CEO there is Jackson's college roommate. That job offer, another trap to monitor what you might do next." I stared at my phone until it stopped ringing, realizing the web around me was far more intricate than I'd imagined. Everyone I trusted had been compromised or had betrayed me. Everyone except, apparently, the federal agent standing in my living room offering me a chance to bring it all down. When do we start? I asked. 6 months after those FBI agents showed up at my door, I sat in a federal courthouse watching Jackson Miller being led away in handcuffs. The evidence we gathered proved devastating not just the insider trading scheme, but years of fraud, corporate espionage, and witness tampering. His face was ashen as the judge handed down a 15-year sentence. Olivia's testimony had been the final nail in the coffin. She'd been gathering evidence against her own brother for months, documenting every illegal transaction, every cover-up, every betrayal. When she took the stand, Jackson's mask of corporate superiority finally cracked. He screamed that she was dead to him. She simply smiled and said, "You did this to yourself." I often think back to that morning when the FBI agents first knocked on my door. If Marcus hadn't gotten sloppy with the IP address, if Jackson hadn't been so desperate to discredit me, if Olivia hadn't reached her breaking point, how different would things be? The web of lies they'd woven had become their own undoing. Harrison Financial didn't survive the scandal. As investors fled and clients demanded answers, the stock price cratered to historic lows. The board had no choice but to sell. And in what I can only describe as poetic justice, Meridian Trust, the very company Jackson tried to use against me, acquired Harrison's assets at fire sale prices. The aftermath brought an unexpected twist. Meridian's CEO called me personally, explaining how they discovered Jackson's manipulation of their job offer. He was impressed by how I'd handled everything and wanted to make things right. 2 weeks later, I accepted a position as their new chief security officer with a mandate to rebuild what Jackson had tried to destroy. Sometimes I drive past Harrison's old building, now emblazoned with Meridian's logo. The bitterness I once felt has faded, replaced by a strange sense of peace. Jackson's betrayal taught me that true power isn't in the ability to destroy someone's career, it's in maintaining your integrity when others lose theirs. Last week, I received a letter from Jackson's prison. I haven't opened it. Some chapters are better left closed. Instead, I took Olivia to dinner at the same restaurant where we used to celebrate company milestones with her brother. We raised our glasses not to revenge, but to redemption. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in watching your enemies fall, it's in rising higher than they ever thought you could. Looking back now, I understand something fundamental about power and betrayal. Jackson thought he could silence me with a termination letter and security escort. But he forgot that loyalty, once broken, transforms into something far more dangerous: determination. When you strip someone of everything they've built, you create an adversary with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The corporate ladder is slick with the oil of betrayal, but I learned that true strength isn't in how hard you can push someone down, it's in how gracefully you can climb back up. Every time I walk into my Meridian office now, I'm reminded that karma doesn't need our help. It just needs patience and clean hands. That's the thing about success built on betrayal, it's like a house of cards in a hurricane. One day, the winds of truth will blow and everything will scatter. I don't celebrate Jackson's downfall anymore. I celebrate the lesson he taught me: your reputation takes years to build, but integrity is what helps you sleep at night.